You guys hear that sound? That's the sound of you no longer being allowed to have fun playing this card game, as Konami's decided to drop the absolute queen of the fun police herself, the disgusting floodgate that is El Shaddoll Winder. I do find it kind of funny that Master Duel, the TCG, and the OCG are currently all moving away from floodgates with their ban list, and Duel Links decided, let's start adding them into the game. In all seriousness though, I really do hope this archetype doesn't become a popular archetype on the ladder, as if it does, this game's going to become a hell of a lot less fun than it normally is, especially considering this floodgate, it's immune to destruction, so cards like Dark Hole just don't do anything to it. It's also fairly immune to Book of Moon, considering there's a trap card inside of the archetype that can just flip it face up after you've Book of Mooned it, so I really hope this doesn't become a really popular floodgate, otherwise this game might suck for a while. But hey, if you want to go out there and bully a bunch of people on the ranked ladder who decide to start their new year by playing some Duel Links, only to be hit by a fat, disgusting floodgate, here's a deck list for you. So here's today's deck list. Now just a reminder before I get to the deck list, if you guys are enjoying today's video and want to see more content from me in the future or more videos from me in the future, please remember to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel down below. I have a whole bunch of videos still planned around the latest box, things like your Mayakashis, coming out maybe a Suship video, we've got your Magical Baskets, basically anything from in here, the Cosmo Towns, any new archetype from this box I'm going to try to make a video on, so if you are interested in any of those archetypes, remember to subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump into this deck list. So for those of you that never experienced Shaddoll before, basically it's an archetype of flip monsters that also enjoy being sent to the graveyard to activate a whole bunch of various different effects, and eventually get into a bunch of fusion summoning to summon out your main boss monster for the archetype, which is of course given to you via the skill, El Shaddoll Winder. This card is disgusting. It takes one Shaddoll monster plus one dark monster, so obviously a fantastic super poly target. Must first be fusion summoned, cannot be destroyed by opponent's card effects, so like I said during the intro, Dark Hole is completely useless against this. Each player can only special summon monsters once per turn whilst this card is face up on the field. So keep in mind that does affect you as well, but obviously you can just summon this at the end of your turn and it won't really affect you all that much, as opposed to your opponent, who's just not going to be able to play the game at all until they remove this card, as almost all decks in Duel Links are trying to special summon, so this thing is it's a real pain in the ass. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one spell trap card, one Shaddoll spell trap card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So a fantastic bonus effect too. If your opponent does manage to remove this, the chance you're going to be able to use this thing again is quite high, considering this thing can add back fusion spells from your graveyard, and as a bonus effect, the skill can actually target your Shaddoll monsters in your graveyard or ones that are banished, and put them back in the extra deck. So if your opponent does manage to remove this, it's probably coming back on the following turn. Absolutely disgusting skill. The skill also allows you to add 3 Shaddoll Fusion monsters and 1 Shaddoll Schism to your deck at the start of the duel. So Shaddoll Schism is a fact, both these cards are actually insane. We'll start with Shaddoll Fusion. Fusion summon 1 Shaddoll Fusion monsters from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field as fusion materials. If your opponent controls a monster that will special summon from the extra deck, you can also use monsters in your deck as fusion material. So if your opponent has a monster on the field, this thing is now going to be using basically just a Neos fusion, summon out whatever Shaddoll monster you want using the materials in your deck list, triggering all your Shaddoll cards when they get sent to the graveyard. Absolutely insane card, and makes going second with this deck list a hell of a lot better. Alright, then we have your Shaddoll Schism. During your main phase, you can fusion summon 1 Shaddoll fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing fusion materials mentioned on it from your field or graveyard, but it cannot attack directly. Keep that in mind, I kind of forgot that during one of the replays, as you'll see. Then you can send to the graveyard 1 monster your opponent controls with the same attribute as the fusion summoned monster. You can only use the effect of Shaddoll Schism once per turn. So this card can be used as a removal to remove your opponent's stuff, but generally, this thing is just a Necro fusion that can keep summoning out every single turn, using your resources and graveyard to just keep summoning out your Shaddoll monsters. Absolutely disgusting card, and overall this skill is just ridiculous. Now obviously this deck list has a whole bunch of new cards in it, so I don't want to keep you guys here too long talking about the deck list, as you'll get really goddamn bored and you guys just want to see some gameplay. But I will go through every card in here in a bit of a speedrun sense, so you guys get a rough idea of just what everything does. Alright, so first of all we have your Wendy. This card, when it's flipped and when it's sent to the graveyard, can summon Shaddolls from your deck, normally in face down defense position. Then we have your Dragon. This thing when it's flipped can target one card your opponent controls and return it to hand, and when it's sent to the graveyard can remove one spell or trap card on the field and just remove it. Then we have your Squamata. This thing when it's sent to the graveyard can send other Shaddoll cards from your deck to the graveyard. Also, when this thing is flipped face up, it can destroy one monster on the field. Alright, then we have your Hedgehog. This thing when it's flipped face up can add one Shaddoll spell and trap card from your deck to your hand, and if this thing is sent to the graveyard, you can add one Shaddoll monster from your deck to your hand. Then we have your Falco. This thing, when it's flipped face up, can target a Shaddoll monster in your graveyard and summon back to the field, and when it's sent to the graveyard, it can summon itself to the field in face down defense position. Alright, then we have your El Shaddoll Fusion. Pretty simple spell, just a quick play fusion spell that just allows you to summon out your Shaddoll monsters. Then we have your Sinister Shadow Games. This card is the card I was talking about earlier when I was mentioning you can counter Book of Moon, as this thing it's a lot more than just the Book of Moon counter. This thing can send one Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard, then you can change any number of face down defense position Shaddoll monsters you control to face up defense position. So first of all, obviously you can counter Book of Moon by flipping your Winda face up, but obviously it can also just flip all of your Shaddoll monsters face up as well, triggering all their effects, their Man-Eater bug effects, or their search effects, or whatever you're triggering. It's a fantastic trap card, and on top of all of that, it sends a Shaddoll from your deck to the graveyard as well, which means it doesn't even lose value when you activate it, as you can just send a copy of your Hedgehog to the graveyard and add a monster to your hand, or you can send one of your Wendy's to the graveyard and summon a monster to the field. It's just an insane trap card. I recommend running it 3 when playing this deck list. Moving on to the extra deck, we of course have your El Shaddoll Construct. This thing takes one Shaddoll monster plus one light monster, so once again, a fantastic Sewer Poly target. Alright, must first be fusion summoned. If this card is special summoned, you can send one Shaddoll card from your deck to the graveyard. Obviously it triggers all your Shaddoll cards, and of course it can send your Schism to the graveyard, which you'll be able to add back in just a second, which we'll get to in just a bit. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles a special summon monster, destroy that monster, so a great way of non-target destruction as well. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one Shaddoll spell and trap card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. So this card, it can send your spell and trap cards to the graveyard, then you can link it off using the brand new link monster, the Gravity Controller, which just takes one non-link monster in the extra monster zone, link it off with this thing, and then add back that card you just sent to the graveyard, which is fantastic for grabbing your Schism, so you can do a whole bunch of fusion summoning every single turn. Alright, speaking of Gravity Controller, this card actually has some other really important effects as well. Cannot be used as link material the turn it is link summoned. This card in the extra monster zone cannot be destroy a battle with a monster in the main monster zone. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster in the extra monster zone, you return both that opponent's monster and this card to the deck. Really insane, especially into archetypes like Tenyi, as you'll see, because they summon out their Link 3 in the extra monster zone, they have all that bullshit in the graveyard that protects it from being targeted or destroyed. You put this thing in the extra monster zone, you swing into it, you bounce them both, non-target removal, not even destruction or anything like that, and it just removes it. So keep that in mind, this thing is really goddamn good at outing monsters in the extra monster zones. Alright, the final new monster in this extra deck is your El Shaddoll Wendigo, which I'm going to be honest, I'm not even going to bother reading this card, as its card effect is pretty irrelevant. The only reason I'm playing it in here is because it's a wind attribute, and I'm playing Sewer Poly, and currently Ancient Warrior is kind of popular on the ladder, and they use wind monsters, so that's literally the only reason it's in here. The effect is completely redundant. You can read it yourself if you like, but I'm not even going to bother. The final thing to mention with this deck list is you'll notice I'm playing Magistus, and a lot of people are going to ask in the comments, where the hell is Alistair? Why am I not playing Invoked? Well, unfortunately, Invoked doesn't really work as well as it does in the TCG with this deck list because we don't have Macabre. And why that's such a big deal is because you'll normal summon your Alistair, you'll search for your Invocation, and Invocation specifically says fusion summon one fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand as fusion material. Unless you're summoning an invoked fusion monster, which basically means you'll summon your Alistair, you'll search for your Invocation, and you can't summon your El Shaddoll Construct because your monster's on the field, that's your fusion material, so unless you have the extra fusion material in your hand, it's just a completely dead card that does absolutely nothing. So until we get Macabre, it doesn't really work very well with this deck list. So instead we're playing Magistus, which works a hell of a lot better. Summon this thing, search a fusion spell, this fusion spell can be used with your hand or your field, and of course gives you the added bonus of potentially going into your Iwas, which I do go into quite a bit as you'll see in at least one of the gameplays, so it's just a way better little package, and you'll see it most games with this, especially considering it's a light monster, so it makes it really easy to go into your construct with just any of your Shaddoll monsters, so yeah. That's basically it for the deck list. Let's jump into some gameplay showcasing what this shit can do. Alright, so the season just reset, so all these replays were obviously gathered in Platinum, which makes sense as everyone is currently in Platinum. And yeah, I think you guys are going to really enjoy some of these replays. I farmed some really good ones. For you guys that are wondering about win rates and stuff with this deck list, it felt pretty goddamn good to me. Most of the losses I have with this deck list were just me playing badly, which is always a good sign for a deck list, as it means someone that's good at the game will be able to climb very easily with this stuff. It's definitely by far a COG deck. It's just a question of whether or not it's going to be a top tier deck list in like tournament play or in, you know, the KC Cups or whatever else. It has a very good chance of doing so in my opinion, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. Alright, so I started with the top replay on purpose, as this replay was a banger. Up against Tenyi, which is currently considered, I think, tier 1 in Duel Links, which is pretty funny considering most of its end boards are just Link 3 monster gain life points, Link 3 normal monster, or non-effect monster. Alright, so opponent's ending on a pretty substantial field. He's going to have his Berserker on the field, he's going to have some life points, and he's going to have the Link 3. So, of course, he's got a copy of the thing that says you don't want to destroy a monster, and you don't want to target my monster in the graveyard. And of course, Berserker on the Tenyi. Alright, starting with my Magistas, searching for my Invocation. Invocation going to be summoning out a copy of my Iwas. This is so that I can steal this Berserkion later. Well, this Berserker, not Berserkion. Alright, Shadow Fusion, using the cards in my deck list to summon out a copy of my Construct. This, of course, will allow me to Chain Block, because this thing can now send a card to Graveyard, and I can use this thing's effect to Chain Block for it. For some reason, my opponent decides to banish this card. I think he thought he was banishing this one. Unfortunate, buddy. Setting my Schism. Now I'm going to Link Summon into my Gravity Controller, so I can out this thing safely, like I mentioned during the deck list portion, because this thing is a non-target removal source for this thing that is currently protected by a bunch of annoying shit in the graveyard. So Construct, adding back the Schism. Set the Schism, Iwas can steal his monster, return his thing, hit him in the face for 4k. Start of his turn, I'm going to use Schism instantly, he's going to Dark Hole me. The reason I use Schism instantly is in case this thing is a high level one of his Tenyis. If he decides to special summon it, that will be his only special summon for the turn, because I'm going to summon, spoiler alert, Winder with this. And he won't be able to go into the Link monster, won't be able to get a non-effect monster on the field, and can't use his graveyard effects. It's a bit of a risk though. Obviously you could draw one of the low-level Tenyis, and then you could just absolutely clap me here, but it's just a bit of a gamble, and thankfully it was a rewarded one. Yeah, a bit of a banger replay, that one. Really enjoyed that. Alright, moving on to Kaiser. Yeah, the fact that Winder can't be outed by Dark Hole, can be outed by Book of Moon, but very risky trying to out it with Book of Moon, is it's a bit sketch for this game. It means you have to play like Chalice or something if you want to specifically counter Winder, but hopefully it doesn't become that popular of a deck list where you need to. Alright, so in a mirror match this time. Opponent playing the Invoked variant. So this guy, he didn't have to search it with Alistair, so he is able to use the materials in hand to just summon out an L Construct just straight away right off the bat. Also happens to open the Light Monster as well. So normally you wouldn't even be able to do this with Invoked, but this guy got a little bit lucky, although he lost a lot of resources to do it. Alright, gonna use my Shadow Fusion, sending of course the card to remove his back row. This guy probably should have used the Winder instantly rather than waiting, because that just means use it during my like draw phase or whatever, because that obviously means I can now use Shadow Fusion straight at the start of the turn, where he could have yeah, he could even change this to the Shadow Fusion, so I only get one summon for the turn. Instead, he let me have a second summon, which was a very bad idea. So I can summon my own Winder. Alright, Hedgehog, adding a bit of value to my hand for later on. And this is where I learned that this card can't be destroyed by monsters in the main monster zone. Yeah, didn't know that until now, but at least I can do a bunch of damage to him, so there's that. Yeah, didn't actually realize that, but anyway. Alright, opponent's going to use his Schism, he's got one set card. It's not that scary, really. He's going to Fusion Summon response to go into a Wendigo, which is an interesting choice. Of course, because he summoned a copy of a Wind Monster when I had a Wind Monster on the field, he can choose to remove my Wind Monster. Alright, Alkenstar's Construct going to be popping the back row once again. Sending to the graveyard, normal summoning, swinging in again. Probably should have swung in with this one because that would have just been flat out lethal damage, but it's fine, we still have lethal anyway. Alright, and he is gone. Yeah, it's a bit of a fun little mirror match, that one. Alright, on to our next replay. Against Asushi? Is that it? Is that his name? Something like that. Yeah, it's Asushi, right? Alright. Let's see what is going on. I forget what this guy was playing, actually. But we have opened Sewer Poly. Oh, he's playing Constella. Oh yeah, this replay was on Banger 1. This is a good example of Mud Dragon, actually. Alright, so he's got not the greatest Constella opening hand, but it's still a fairly decent one. He'll end on the monster he's looking for, and an extra card draw, and a color back row. Alright, so first thing we're going to do here is, because this card is a light monster that is also a warrior. This card is a light monster that is a spellcaster, so same attribute, different types. So, I can make a Mud Dragon. Frey searching for my invocation, activate my Sewer Poly, he can't respond to this, discard, summoning out a copy of my Mud Dragon. Mud Dragon, of course, can't be targeted, and now I can change its attribute to Dark, meaning all Dark monsters I summon this turn will just not be targeted. So when I do my invocation, whatever his back row is, unless it's specifically non-target, he can't do shit about this window. Alright, gonna be using two different effects here, one sending to grave, one putting on the field. Alright, popping one to the back row. See, it was a crackdown, he can't target my shit anyway, he's just dead. That's a great little Mud Dragon example. It's not that often you get to see Mud Dragon used in Duel Links, so nice to see it have a place in this deck. I do like Mud Dragon, he's kind of a little bit of a cutie. Alright, up against the Pendulum play. I think it was playing, I forgot the name of the archetype. The archetype with a bunch of like normal monster dudes, whatever it's called in the fusion stuff. Alright, bit of an interesting hand this one. He's gonna rescue Rabbit, summon out his two dudes, fusion summon, go for his whatever this card's called. Rescue Hamster, gonna be recycling. I think he just about passes the turn there. I'm pretty sure he didn't do a whole lot more during this turn. Yeah, he passes it over. Has an extra 8 monster on the field, so we can use resources in deck. So starting off by summoning out a Construct, trying to bait out this steal, which my opponent then does decide to do so. Bit silly, because it means now I can pop my own monster by sending the cards to the graveyard that I was sending with the window. Oh, sorry, with the Construct. To add back my fusion for later on. And now he has no disruption left, so I can just beat over it and pass the turn. Alright, before he can do his Pendulum Summon, I'm now going to summon out my Schism. This means if he does do a Pendulum Summon, he can't do any more summoning for the turn. Alright, gonna use my games, flip this thing face up, remove his monster, of course triggering the Falco to summon it to the field, and he just concedes before anything goes on there. This trap card is just so goddamn good, man. It's so good in this deck. You want to play some Limit 3s? I honestly don't think Limit 3s are even better than this trap. It feels so nice, especially just having the added bonus of Book of Moon becomes irrelevant versus your window, because that is like the main out currently being played in Duel Links, is Book of Moon. In tournament play, that might change if this becomes a popular deck list, but on ladder, I doubt that will change too much. I think most people are still going to be playing Book of Moon, which is the card most people own. I guess to be fair, the card ticket thing here is whatever the card the box chip things can be used to grab Chalice now, so a lot of people probably own that card as well. Invocation, summoning out a copy of your Construct. Construct going to be sending the trap card to graveyard. Wendy going to be summoning a monster. Grabbing my Squamata. Sending the trap card so I can go into my Link 1. Construct, add back the trap card so we can set it. And this is your normal sort of turn 1 setup for this deck list, although I got a bit lucky here and opened Sewer Poly as well. Alright, secret password, searching for a Life Twin. And the second he tries to use that Live Twin special summon, I'm going to activate my fusion spell in response. Activate his Live Twin at home, I'm going to use my Schism, summon out my Winder. And now he can only do one summon for the turn, meaning this card ain't summoning shit. Alright, sends his trap card to the graveyard. Schism going to be summoning out a copy of my Construct. Sending card to the graveyard for a search. Normal summon. Remove one of his monsters. And this is where I found out, because this is one of the earlier games I played with the deck. This is where I found out that, unfortunately, these can't attack directly, because they were summoned off of my Schism. So I beat over his monsters, then realized, oh, I can't hit him in the face. So slight misplay there, could have definitely attacked better or summoned better or whatever. Could even use Sewer Poly maybe to try to go for a lethal there. But anyway. Summon out his Hane, beats over my monster, pops a back row. Unfortunately though, unfortunately for him, we've got a Sewer Poly set, so he's got a Dark Monster. And it's gone. And this Winder can hit him in the face. And we used the skill, by the way, to put the Winder back from the, wherever it was, back in the extra deck. And yeah, he's just dead on field. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today's replays. Hope you guys enjoyed them. Remember, if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. Still have a whole bunch of videos planned around the latest box. Maybe even another one later today. I'm not sure if I'll be able to have time for that one, but I'll try to make a Constellar video very soon since that's an easier video for me to make. So if you do enjoy these, remember to leave a like, remember to subscribe, and yeah, thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Laters.
Hey, big brother, can I watch SpongeBob? Shut up, Mokuba. I'm busy flagging YouTube videos to compensate for the fact that I have an extremely small penis. Oh.